Hey guys. Yay, it's time for our Wednesday night live. I know that some people are gonna say, it's so funny because obviously, like, when you're on Instagram, people can say whatever they want to say about you. But usually when I do my lives, I sit in front of a window so that, I have some natural light. But yeah, like, when you sit in front of the light, it kind of like my foundation doesn't quite match my skin very well. But like, I've had like, well, there was this one girl who just like wanted to like make me very aware that my foundation doesn't like perfectly match my skin tone. But it looks okay in real life, I promise. It's just like when the natural light is on you, it kind of does like it doesn't quite match up. But I tried a new oil on my face, and I have like a few breakouts. It's so annoying when you like switch products, and it's like, well, I didn't really switch products. I just had an old product, and I usually use shea butter on my skin as a moisturizer, and I was using some argan oil, and it made me break out. And it's like so annoying because I don't know if you guys love to like pick your zits. I pick my zits. I have such a bad problem with picking my zits. Katie, okay, you look incredible. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's so funny because like you guys are always so sweet, and like I love my live crowd, but like some people come and watch the lives later on, and they like have all these comments like on my appearance and things like that, which I'm like, it is what it is. Okay, so Emma says, I've received high ALP levels in my liver. I was over-medicated on T3 for my thyroid. Would this be impacting it? I'm not really sure. Any type of like high liver enzyme can sometimes be a indicator that the liver's maybe a little bit bogged down or working less efficiently. But that's not like, you said, would this be impacting it? Oh, you were over medicated on T3. Like that could impact it. If you had high liver enzyme levels and then you got them down, you were supporting liver function, and you no longer needed as high of medication because your liver was now converting T4 to T3. Absolutely. Your liver, the health of your liver totally impacts your conversion of T4, which is that, I don't like to say inactive completely because T4 does have some jobs, but that mostly inactive thyroid hormone T4 converts mostly to T3 in both the gut and the liver. So overall, like, yeah, liver function can always affect thyroid levels for sure. I need advice on improved gut motility for someone who has abused laxatives in the past. Yeah. So I think it's first just like understanding it's a process. I know sometimes when we understand, like we start to see like, okay, like you start to worry like, oh, I've been using laxatives and I've been abusing them. So like, now I need to get off of them completely. But obviously, like, it can be a really rocky change. And so I think it's like best to make sure everything's okay, like do some testing. I think a lot of doctors like to be aware that you've been using laxatives, or if they're the one that prescribed them, they obviously know. And then you kind of just like slowly wean yourself off. And I like to use things like, I've had clients that have used like aloe vera. I have clients that have used like a good magnesium. I have clients that have used like cascara sagrada. There's a supplement called trifala that really helps. So you have to kind of understand that your bowel muscles on a laxative do get lazy, and it does depend on which laxative you use. So like, for example, Miralax has different ingredients than another type of stool softener. So you kind of want to like look at the mechanism of action of the actual laxative that you are using. And then you want to like kind of mimic it, like, okay, and understand that it did make your bowels a little lazy. And so you're going to have to like almost retonify the bowels. And of course you don't want to like be constipated during the transition, but there is kind of sometimes a period where it's not the same, like a poop with laxative is not going to be the same as an actual proper motility or a peristalsis muscle contraction of the colon. And it takes some time to get there. So I think like my biggest tips is just really, really be patient. If you've already gotten completely off the laxative, that's the first step. And then now increasing gut motility with like a squatty potty, making sure you're in a squat position. using things that are going to help kind of move things along, like triphala, aloe vera, that kind of thing. But give yourself time. And then also, if you were like, usually if, you know, people have abused laxatives, they were constipated beforehand. And you have to kind of get to the bottom of why you were constipated in the first place, because if you don't fix that, then it's just going to be this constant fight to get the gut mobile again. So if you were using laxatives, you most likely were constipated before the laxatives, and so you want to like kind of dial it in. Why was I constipated from the very beginning? And it's probably the same reason why you're constipated now. Yeah, the laxatives probably gave you a little laziness, and I say you, like, I know you said anyone, so I'm not just speaking specifically to you, I'm speaking to anyone that has used laxatives. You know, it kind of depends, like, it just really depends on how you have been, like, how you've been abusing them, how long it's been since you've been off of them, and what's going on that's keeping you constipated. But I think, like, easy things are, like, making sure you get enough magnesium, aloe vera, triphala, cascara sagrada, those types of things, until you can get to the bottom of why you're constipated and why mobility and motility is slow. The coconut oil mayo from Thrive is amazing. Is there another brand you like? I think I've only been able to find the coconut oil mayo made for yourself from Thrive. And then I do have a recipe in Fully Nourished for coconut oil mayo to make on your own. So it is hard to find coconut oil mayo that's not like coconut oil and canola oil or coconut oil and safflower oil or something. But the one from Thrive is the only one that I've found that like is truly just coconut oil and is actually really delicious. What causes interstitial cystitis and how to heal it? Thanks. So IC actually is a lot of times caused by, now this is not always the case, it's kind of like, it can be caused by so many things like gut issues. It's really about like a bacteria getting back into the bladder and causing inflammation. But a lot of times it's actually caused by pelvic floor issues. So when you pee, there might be like a microscopic amount of pee actually going back into the urinary tract and the bladder, because of pelvic floor like imbalances. So areas of the pelvic floor are too strong or too weak. So look into pelvic floor physio. That's usually the number one thing that helps women the most, along with a really high quality probiotic and getting to the bottom of gut issues. Because a lot of times they'll run like, the doctors will run tests. You want them to test for like funguses and bacteria, make sure there's no bacterial cause of IC, but a lot of times it is being caused by like a microscopic amount of urine. Actually, like when you go to pee and then you go to stand up, the pelvic floor is imbalanced, and so it's squeezing some urine back into the bladder. So look into pelvic floor physio. Why is vitamin A needed to support thyroid and estrogen detoxification? That is what the body requires. Vitamin A is needed throughout the whole body, and it's one of the compounds that's needed to support the thyroid and estrogen detoxification. Just like, vitamin C, just like the B vitamins, just like vitamin E. There's not really a reason why necessarily. It's more just like that's one of the requirements by the body. It's a nutrient that is needed in high amounts to make hormones, particularly to turn cholesterol into all of your sex steroids and all of your hormones. And we need progesterone in proper levels, and we need our cells functioning in proper levels for estrogen detoxification. And so vitamin A is just one of the components needed for thyroid function. Please Instagram save the live. Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to end it a little bit before the hour is up, and then I'll go live for another 20 minutes after that, just so I can save it and control it. But yeah, Instagram didn't save either of yesterday's lives. Yay, Instagram. You guys can see how happy I am about that. I noticed that when I eat dairy, I have an increase in androgenic symptoms. Would this be more cortisol related opposed to the dairy itself? Are hard cheeses easier to digest? It could be a lot of different things. A lot of times dairy or androgenic symptoms are being driven by estrogen. Androgens, in women with PCOS or high androgen symptoms, a lot of times estrogen is converting into androgens, and it could be having to do with multiple things. So that could sometimes be due to liver detoxification, meaning like estrogen is being reabsorbed in the gut instead of carried out by the body. If you don't have enough progesterone, sometimes progesterone is needed to properly digest dairy, and if you don't have enough, then you can have issues with dairy. But hard cheeses tend to be easier to digest as opposed to like milk or ice cream or cottage cheese or things like that. So I would experiment with hard cheeses. You can also look into A2 dairy. Sometimes A2 dairy is just a little bit easier on the system. Everyone's very different, and everyone's at different states of like inflammation and disease state or breakdown, body breakdown. And so sometimes dairy is not going to work for everybody right away, especially high amounts. Like especially if you haven't been eating it for a while and then you go to eat a lot, it can really be like, whoa, you know. So it is important to tie it in very slowly and in very small amounts to see how your body tolerates it, and then if it doesn't tolerate it well, there could be some problems going on. So it's good to really pay attention, which is what you're doing. And yes, hard cheeses tend to be easier to digest. Breast tenderness is starting to happen earlier in my cycle, not just after ovulation. I know I have estrogen stored in tissues there. Any chance this is a sign of detox? It absolutely could be. It's hard to know. Make sure that you don't have like fibrocystic breasts or anything like that, anything that you need to like get checked out, but it absolutely could. If you're having like your estrogen rise starts before ovulation usually, and so if it's happening around like day 5 to 7, that would make sense. That's when estrogen does start to rise. So if you had like higher estrogen already, that rise would just add to the estrogen burden. So it absolutely could. If you're getting like estrogen symptoms all cycle long, many times, and you've been working on your diet and your lifestyle, you've been doing the right things, a lot of times it is that estrogen is finally mobilizing or moving a little bit. Especially if you're doing the right things and you're like, why am I getting a little worse, or why am I seeing my symptoms get like slightly worse before they get better? But you just want to kind of pay attention to it. So it shouldn't last like cycle after cycle after cycle. If it truly is a sign of estrogen mobilizing, usually it lasts only for like 2 to 3 cycles, and it gets better each cycle, and then usually by the 4th cycle it's almost gone or completely gone. So if it's not like slowly and gradually improving, then it might be something is not working for you. But yeah, it's hard to know, but I would say like that sounds like estrogen mobilizing for sure. Have you seen the use of serrapeptase used successfully in your practice for uterine polyps, endometriosis, safe to take along with aspirin, vitamin K? That's something you really want to ask your doctor and do your own research on. I personally have never seen serrapeptase and aspirin taken together, but I don't see a reason why like it would be bad. But again, do your own research on that. And I have heard for like uterine polyps and fibroids, the use of serrapeptase. I've heard of it for endometriosis, but I've never seen it firsthand. But there have been a few women who have come to me, and I personally didn't recommend serrapeptase, but they were using serrapeptase and they saw huge results with their fibroids. So that is something that I have seen be pretty successful. But yeah, you would have to check with your doctor to make sure it's safe to take along with aspirin and vitamin K and do your own research on that. And I'm not really sure about it being helpful with endometriosis. What brand of Cascara Sagrada is best? I've used Nature's Way and Wild Organ Harvest before. The thing with Cascara is that it does need to be aged. If it's not aged, it will give you like severe cramping. So it's so important to make sure that it's just pure Cascara Sagrada, not like anything else, and is aged properly, or it will cause a lot of discomfort. So that's kind of like the thing with Cascara. And sometimes Cascara can be really rough. Like it's kind of similar. It's not similar to Senna, but it can be like it can have like a very like uncomfortable laxative effect. So sometimes people like Triphala, Triphala, a little better. It's just more gentle. I started bioidentical progesterone pull day 14 to 28. Do you think in 3 months I can see changes on my period, ovulation more than anything? I'm following all your tips. yeah, I mean, I think that anything is possible. I like saw your DM that you sent me, which is like wonderful, crazy changes. And I think that anything is possible. But yeah, I mean, with just the changes that you've seen, like in your skin and the way that you look, I think that your health is definitely getting better. So yeah, I mean, anything is possible. I think you're gonna just have to kind of wait and see. But I think that a lot can change in 3 months, that's for sure. Hopefully I can see some changes soon. I've been feeling so much better now that I added animal protein to my diet. That's so good to hear. For everyone that, well, I guess nobody saw the DM, but Katya sent me a 2-month picture of like when she was completely vegan for 5 years to like 2 months later of eating animal protein, and she looks so like glowy. She's changed so much. She just looks so healthy. So that is a great sign, and I'm sure you're feeling better like you said. So you know, 3 months is a long time, and take it day by day, you guys. I think sometimes we can get really like, oh, we want to see change so quickly, but as long as you're feeling better and you're seeing slow changes, the cycle does take a while to change, but as long as you're progressing in the right direction, I mean, why wouldn't the cycle change, you know? Why wouldn't our menstrual cycle and our ovaries follow? How many times a week would you recommend eating red meat? And what is the latest time you would say should be to eat in the evening? It doesn't really, like, I don't really, sometimes I'll eat it every day. I'm not really worried about it if it's high quality. If it's a little bit, like, if it's not high quality, then I try to limit it as much as possible. But if it's high quality, I'm not, like, limiting it. I would probably say about once a day. And then what's the latest time I would eat in the evening? I eat usually 30 minutes before I go to bed for my bedtime snack in order to keep my blood sugar balanced throughout the night and keep my metabolism strong while I'm sleeping. I was using Amarita progesterone cream for 30 days every day. Now I see that I was doing it wrong. I'm worried now. I don't know how to continue using it. Any advice? I can't really give you advice on it, but usually women take it from day 14 to 28 of their cycle to mimic like ovulation to menstruation. But if you've already been ovulating, if you know when you've been ovulating, that's usually the time. But women take it differently. There are women that take it every 30 days or for 30 days straight. There are women that take it from day 14 to 28. There are women that take it from day 10 to 28. Do some research on it. Look at the different ways to take it, the different benefits of taking it different ways. I don't think that like you should be worried. I just think that if you're usually pre-menopausal women should take it in a cyclical manner. So that if that's the case, you kind of want to look into doing it that way. My boyfriend is a night owl and always sleeps super late. His joints and muscles are always sore, pooping, and has had hair loss. Would collagen help support joint inflammation? It may. It's like definitely worth a try. But if he is having more issues than just like collagen, then it might be something else. So I think collagen is always worth a try, especially if you already have it on hand. Why not just give some to him? You know what I mean? But if that's not helping, then there could be something a little more serious wrong. Has he talked to a doctor about it? Can you recommend a good loose foundation powder? Have you tried the one from Well People? I have not, but once I start my YouTube channel, I want like you guys to give me recommendations for products you guys want me to try, because I can reach out to brands and say like, hey, I'm doing a YouTube video. Do you want to like give me some free stuff, and I'll try it and tell people how it is. But I personally have not strayed from Tarte's Amazonian Clay foundation powder. I just really like it because it gives you kind of like an airbrushed finish, and you can really build coverage based on the brush that you use. So I will usually use like a very like fluffy kabuki brush to apply it, and it's pretty like low coverage. But if you use like a really compact kabuki brush or the one that they sell for it, it actually does a pretty full coverage. So I like that you can build coverage. It's very diverse. You can do it both ways. What's the best time to take magnesium and also vitamin E? Magnesium, it can be really taken at any time. I sometimes like to take it in the morning, but sometimes I forget, so I'll take it at night. It just really depends, but I think magnesium can be taken anytime. And vitamin E, I usually take it with meals. But again, I think it could be taken with at any time. It's always like some of these things are just better to take them than not at all. But there are certain things that will energize you. Like for example, B vitamins usually energize you if you're just taking like a B vitamin supplement. But yeah, I usually take both my vitamin E and my magnesium in the morning. Is it okay to take Cascara Sagrada daily? That's something that you should ask your doctor about. Like it really depends on if you have any specific conditions, if you're taking any medications, like it really depends. It's probably a good idea to take a break from any supplement, honestly, and not take it every single day or get reliant on any type of laxative supplement unless it's like for like you're seriously constipated and it's for a period of time. But usually with Cascara Sagrada, it is pretty, like, I don't want to say it's rough on the digestive system. It actually is pretty gentle, but in some cases it can be like irritating. So it is probably a good idea to take a break and only use it as necessary. Been sick for the past couple days, waking to muscle tightening rigidity. I know I need to nourish myself, but having a tough time keeping anything down, bone broth included. Any ideas? Waking up to muscle tightening and rigidity. It might be like a magnesium issue. I'm wondering like, if you've been sick, you might just need like some electrolytes and minerals. So I would just try to get them in whatever way possible, even if it's just like coconut water. I usually just drink coconut water when I'm sick if I don't feel like drinking anything else. But yeah, I'm not sure. I know you, like you said, you need to nourish yourself, but sometimes if your body's saying like you can't eat something, that's the body's wisdom, and you kind of don't want to like override it. So I really like coconut water for when I'm sick, because even bone broth sometimes, like it's too thick to get down and it kind of like sits wrong. I've been introducing raw cheese into my diet and it caused hemorrhoid flare-up. Can you explain why this happened? I'm not really sure. For some people, it has to do with bacteria issues, inflammation. They still haven't like healed their gut issues that is causing the reaction to dairy. And yeah, it's hard to know, but it just might not work for you. Some people can't do cow's dairy until they get their gut further restored, or some people can only do like goats and sheep dairy for a while. But yeah, it's hard to know why that would have happened. But if that's like the only causing factor, then it could just be that it's not working very well. I heard that you said acne is related to high iron. The past 2 months, I'm following your advices on, and everything goes well, except that I now have acne on my face that I never had. Interesting. Sometimes when you mobilize estrogen out of the body, like estrogen causes you to store iron in your tissues. High estrogen is going to equal high iron. And so when you actually start mobilizing estrogen, like by increasing your metabolic rate, increasing your thyroid, increasing your progesterone, getting yourself ovulating better because you're getting more nutrients, sometimes you're mobilizing that estrogen, which you wanted out of your tissues, right? It's like, yes, I want estrogen to be mobilized for the first time in a long time. But sometimes when we mobilize estrogen, we're also mobilizing iron. And iron feeds bacteria, feeds pathogens, and that includes the pathogens on our skin. And so sometimes the mobilization of estrogen and iron can lead to acne. Sometimes making sure that your blood sugar is balanced is really important, making sure you're supporting your gut in every single day, or in every single way you possibly can. But yeah, I'm not really sure why you would have acne, because I don't really know, like everything's just kind of speculation. But yeah, usually when you mobilize estrogen after having it in your tissues for a long time, it can cause breakouts, but it should only last like 2 or 3 cycles, and it should like gradually improve. If it's not improving and it's just getting worse, then something's not working and needs to be shifted. But there should be like small, tiny changes. But orange juice is helpful. Any type of vitamin C is helpful. Don't do too much iron-rich foods like chicken and meat. Sometimes if you're experiencing high iron, then symptoms, and sometimes getting your protein from other sources like shellfish and whitefish and dairy and eggs and things like that can be helpful, like trying to lower the intake of iron for just a small amount of time to let the body kind of process and move it. But then high vitamin C foods and coffee can also help bind to iron, like coffee, orange juice, beta carotene, so anything rich in vitamin A, like anything orange, so sweet potatoes, carrots, liver, things like that. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to like hang in there, but you want to make sure you're eating nutrient dense. You can experiment with like less iron rich foods for a little while, but if you said on your lab test you have high iron, then sometimes your doctor can give you some things for high iron as well. Wanted to ask you yesterday, what are your thoughts on kombucha? You know, kombucha in itself, meaning traditionally prepared kombucha, is actually a very healthful drink. Unfortunately, commercialized kombucha, they've added lactic acid producing bacteria to kombucha, which has turned it from a health food into a kind of bad for you food in a sense. We don't want to be introducing tons of lactic acid producing bacteria into our digestive systems. I honestly think that's why so many people have SIBO and gut issues these days, is because they're like chugging kombucha, eating tons of yogurts that are made from bacteria that are not traditional bacteria, meaning that they're not letting the actual milk culture itself. They're adding bacteria, their own strains of bacteria, to culture the dairy, and it's usually lactic acid producing bacteria. So that's a long way of saying I think like having some kombucha here and there is going to be fine, but it is better to make sure that you know what bacteria strains the companies are using. Usually the cheaper kombuchas are not gonna be the best options, and having it from time to time is not gonna be a problem, but I probably wouldn't like chug it every day like as a health food. You mentioned that vitamin A helps with the conversion of cholesterol into sex hormones. Is this why hypothyroids show high cholesterol? Correct. Yes, I actually have a post on that a little while back. So yes, most people who are hypothyroid have high cholesterol, and I believe a lot of cases of high cholesterol have to do with hypothyroidism or subclinical hypothyroidism. But that's just kind of an observation I've made. Could you please talk about hirsutism? Does weight gain cause it? What about electrolysis treatment? I don't think weight gain causes hirsutism. Estrogen and androgens can cause it. Usually it's stress-based, so where are the stressors in our lives? But if we are seeing weight gain, that can be a sign of stressors. Keep in mind that our body stores fat when it's under stress, when it feels threatened, and keeping our blood sugar balance is the #1 thing we can do for hirsutism to keep the conversion from estrogen into androgens low. In women with PCOS, they have a hard time keeping blood sugar balanced, and they don't, they've got to focus on keeping blood sugar balanced in order to keep stress very, very low. So it can be high DHEA in the tissues, which a lot of times it is, or I shouldn't say high DHEA, I mean high DHT in the tissues, and a lot of times stress can convert DHEA into DHT in the skin, and DHT is kind of that like very potent androgen. So for me, like the best thing that has happened for me is I've actually applied progesterone topically, which has really, really helped lighten up the hairs. Lowering stress and keeping my blood sugar balance is so important. Whenever I'm under stress, I start to see like 1 or 2 dark hairs pop up. I get it like in between my breasts and like near my belly button. I used to have really bad hirsutism, like right here and my mustache area. So now it only pops up under stress, which shows me that it does have a very stress-based nature. But we want to really focus on getting our progesterone levels up, our estrogen levels down, making sure our blood sugar is balanced, making sure we're sleeping well and we're laying that foundation, getting proper amounts of sunlight, and just overall taking care of ourselves. And then electrolysis, I mean, I think that women with PCOS or any woman in general who struggles with hair growth should handle the hair growth in any way that they feel the most confident and the most sexy. So yeah, the goal is to work on the imbalances that are maybe driving the hirsutism, but until then, we want to still feel good about ourselves. So I think whatever works for you budget-wise and what is more comfortable to you is what's good for you. So some women like to wax, some women like to do electrolysis, and it's just kind of whatever is comfortable to you. Hi, I have raised androstenedione level of 6.4 with the rest of my androgen profile normal. My serum estradiol is elevated at 587 among with suppressed FSH and LH. Yeah, it sounds like typical PCOS, that's for sure. What would you recommend for me? Any health supplements or particular foods? Yeah, this was actually what I do for my job. So in this live, I usually am just like answering general health questions. These are just kind of like speculation and just for general health information. But for something like that, I would have to see, labs and sometimes like run functional lab tests and see your health history, how you sleep, how you eat, things like that. Like that's what I do with my one-on-one sessions. And sometimes it takes an hour to really comb through somebody's health and lifestyle and nutrition habits to figure out what you can start doing to rebalance and bring balance to the body. What's the difference between supplementing with pregnenolone and bioidentical progesterone cream? I've supplemented progesterone for a while and was just curious if pregnenolone is the better option. Pregnenolone is that like mother hormone or master like hormone. Every single one of your hormones is made from pregnenolone. So pregnenolone turns into DHEA, cortisol, and progesterone, and then DHEA turns into estrogen and testosterone. So pregnenolone can sometimes lower stress on the body for some people. It is one of those things where it's that precursor hormone, so it takes a lot of stress on your body from having to convert cholesterol into pregnenolone to create all the other hormones. But when you supplement pregnenolone, you do have to keep in mind that supplementing it can convert into cortisol. So it's not a good idea to supplement pregnenolone when you as a person are under stress, or you end up actually, hurting yourself further because that pregnenolone is going to turn into stress hormone. So it's so important when supplementing pregnenolone to keep stress levels low by eating enough, eating frequently, making sure you're getting enough of the minerals, making sure you're getting enough sleep, not over-exercising, that type of thing. But progesterone can sometimes be competing for reception in the cell with cortisol. So if you're under a lot of stress, sometimes progesterone doesn't work as well, or you don't see as much benefit from progesterone, or sometimes you need a different delivery. If cream is not giving you what you need, then sometimes you need some type of oral or a different way of delivering it. But pregnenolone is just a completely different hormone. Sometimes people do see more benefit with pregnenolone, and then some people don't. It just kind of depends on the person and what's going on with them. No, I don't have ovulation. Last 6 months, I don't have menstruation. Then I can continue to use cream or stop 15 days and then mimic ovulation. I'm tracking my temps and pulses, but no sign of ovulation. You want to kind of look into the proper way to take progesterone cream, kind of mimicking a natural cycle. Finally got my period back to a 32-day cycle after 2 years of irregular cycles. Woo woo! Thank you for your knowledge and overall support. That's all you, girl. I just gave you the info and you did the work, so that is really exciting. And this is like a very normal occurrence. I love getting messages like this because it's so funny. It's like we think like, oh my gosh, could it be this simple? Eat more frequently, make sure we're eating more nutrient-dense foods, make sure we're taking care of our bodies and exercising less. And it's like, yeah, it is that simple, which is so crazy, but I love hearing that. Not sure if this is an FN, but what would you recommend for bras? I've pulled out all of my underwires, but still so uncomfortable with the estrogen dominance. I personally don't wear any type of like underwire or plastic underneath my boobs because I just think it's uncomfortable. I also noticed that I did this experiment when I was this was like last year, like the beginning of last year. I did like 6 months completely bra free. I didn't wear a bra once except for when I went to the gym. Obviously I was gonna expose people to that craziness. But I didn't wear a bra for like 6 months, and honestly I felt like a different person. I did not have the any anxiety. I felt like kind of just more relaxed, and the minute I went back to I put my underwire bra back on just as an experiment, and for the next 3 days I had severe crippling anxiety from wearing an underwire bra. It wasn't too tight, it fit just fine. It was the same bra I always had, and for me that was such an eye-opener as to how much the type of bra and the fabric of the bra, everything. A bra really shifts my mood and shifts how I feel overall. Now I don't wear, like, I wear very like bralette type bras, and if I can pull off not wearing a bra, I will. I recommend whatever is comfortable to you as a woman. I think there are some women who feel really comfortable with their boobs pushed up to the sky, and if that's the case, like, don't let me, you know, shoo you away. But I do think it's important to be aware of how your bra affects your mood and how it affects your circulation. Anything that's going to be tight underneath the breast is going to affect lymphatic drainage from the lymph nodes that sit underneath the breast in the armpits. So if you're wearing something that's tight that leaves any type of marks on your skin, then that is preventing drainage. And keep in mind, you know, if you're using aluminum deodorants or you're using any type of products that are going to be sitting in the lymph fluid, you want that to be draining properly. So overall, I think like bras are really relative, but I don't recommend women wear any type of wiring near their breasts at all, because those things act just like antennas to the Wi-Fi and the EMFs around us. It's like radiation just straight to those boobies. So I would really, the one thing I say look out for and prevent is stay away from any type of metal or wire near your breasts. I'm so excited to hear about you doing a YouTube channel. I can't wait to subscribe and watch. Please do videos on everything you've done. I highlight it on your IG, acne, skincare, diet, weight gain, everything, you guys. I'm so excited to start YouTube too, because I think that is such a better platform for me to like share everything. You guys always are interested in everything I'm doing, skincare, beauty, diet, workouts, which is what YouTube will allow me to film and do. I think like Instagram's a great platform to connect with people, but I think YouTube's gonna be a really great platform for me to like sit down and take like a table full of products and review them to you guys. And you know, I think it'll just be a better platform for me to share what you guys want to hear. But my first plan, the reason why I haven't been doing as many stories on Instagram is actually because I don't want to be putting too much work and effort into Instagram stories when I'm going to save that stuff for YouTube. So I'm going to redo everything that I talked about on Instagram on YouTube, plus more. The things that you've been waiting for and hoping for and requesting, they're all written down in a long ass list, like hundreds of content ideas. So I'm really excited for YouTube as well. I'm going to talk about hirsutism. I'm going to talk about hair loss. I'm going to talk about just about everything that you guys ask about. Why should we avoid castor oil packs during our menstruation? That's a good idea. That's a good question, because I've seen like, so there's so many people that are like, castor oil packs are not safe for menstruation, and personally I did not know that until like 2 years ago, and I had done castor oil packs during my period for years, but I think it's more just for the bleeding. Like a lot of people say it's not safe for bleeding, but then I found manuals from like the 1930s where doctors were actually prescribing them for menstrual cramps. So I don't really know if they're contraindicated, honestly. I kind of say like just avoid them during menstruation to be safe than sorry. But I haven't been able to actually find a reason why you should avoid them. But there are a lot of people that say like, oh, they're so dangerous, but no one's ever been able to like give me a good reason why. They have been like, people have said like, oh, they make you cramp heavier, or bleed, or I should say bleed heavier and cramp harder. They are not safe to do if you're pregnant, because they can cause like a miscarriage. But again, I'm like, I have not been able to find a lot of information on them. I personally sometimes still do them while I'm menstruating, and I haven't seen a problem, but as more of like a safety measure, I just recommend people not do them just to be safe, because there is a lot of like caution around doing them. Have you ever read into the drug vancomycin pertaining to the effects on cholangitis? No. I don't really like do a lot of research on drugs and medicine, just because I like personally can't prescribe them or don't really work with them. The only thing that I do is like, I know enough to, I know it's like contraindicated with my clients and things like that, but no, I have not. So I'd be really interesting, be really interested. That would be very interesting to know more about. Why women with PCOS gain weight in certain parts of their bodies. That's all hormones. Hormones really determine the way our weight is distributed. And like, for example, if you gain mostly belly fat, that has a lot to do with stress, you know, blood sugar imbalances, cortisol, not eating balanced meals, like too much exercise, hypothyroid. And then if it's like upper arms, that's a lot of times have thyroid or insulin resistance, or just meaning blood sugar imbalances, the wrong types of fats. And then like hips and thighs is usually due to a lot of estrogen. So just depends. Women with PCOS store fat differently because they have different driving factors in their symptoms. You are seriously the best. Appreciate you so much and giving your time. Also loving Fully Nourished and all the yummy recipes. I'm so happy that you are. I'm so excited to hear that. Like, all the girls in Fully Nourished are loving it. Yes, acne are improving through the time. It's not really acne, but strange little pimples, and I hate it because never had it. We'll try with trying to eat less iron food. Thank you. Yeah, and sometimes just a raw carrot every single day can really help, like, improve the skin. And I do go through certain times in my cycle if I'm not, like, since Fully Nourished, you guys, I went through a really stressful time, and like my health suffered a little bit too, and I've been dealing with some gut issues just because when I get under stress, I just get like, my gut is just so sensitive. So I've been like working on getting my gut back to being like optimal, and sometimes during my cycle, I'll get like some breakouts, and I know I said it was from like a skincare change, but I think it also has to do with my gut not being optimized right now. And the raw carrot every single day, I swear, is like magical. Like, if I don't do my raw carrot every day, I see a difference in my digestion. Oh, I forgot a question that I meant to ask yesterday as well. Can daily aspirin help promote ovulation and progesterone? There are some studies that show that it can. There are a lot of IVF clinics and things that use it to make IVF like treatments stick more. So there are a few studies that say that it does help with like egg quality and ovulation and progesterone, but that's just kind of like, it may help. There's no like clear picture that yes, it does help. But for me, like, it has definitely helped my luteal phase last longer and my periods just to be like such an easy breeze. I know it seems like the typical PCOS, but my ultrasound scan revealed that my ovaries are all clear with no cysts. There's a lot of women with PCOS that don't have polycystic ovaries. So I don't think that like polycystic ovaries are necessary for PCOS. I think it's more about like the imbalanced hormones and the anovulatory cycles and what's going on with your hormones more than it is like what's actually being depicted on the ovaries. Can't find in my city, and I should say before I move on is that doctors, well, there are doctors out there that don't need a polycystic ovaries showing up on an ultrasound to diagnose with PCOS. So some, you know, if all the androgen signs are there and there's anovulatory cycles, then sometimes there's still a PCOS diagnosis. But of course, that's according to what your doctor thinks. Can't find in my city any good gluten-free mixed flour for your recipes in Fully Nourished. Can I replace the mix with some other gluten-free flour? Of course, of course. You just kind of want to use one that has like the highest quality ingredients you can find, but I wouldn't stress about it at all. It's just really about making sure it's like wheat-free. Was taking liquid progesterone under my tongue consistently and started getting terrible headaches. I'm guessing from estrogen. Should I continue or lower the dose? It just kind of depends. Some people actually will do a higher dose for the first like period of time to like kind of get over those symptoms quicker. Some people do a lower dose because it's just more comfortable. I think it's really up to you. I would do a little research and decide what you feel is best in your gut. I know the headaches are awful, so sometimes it can, if there's a lot of estrogen mobilizing, sometimes actually taking something that's going to block estrogen like vitamin E can be helpful in some cases, and making sure you're doing the raw carrot, making sure you're having like a good bowel movement every day, that type of thing. And sometimes it's just like the body's not ready for that, and doing a low dose like you just suggested can be a little easier. Is it strange that I never feel anything after a castor oil pack? Sorry for so many questions. No, don't be sorry. No, it's not strange. Sometimes it just, you don't feel anything. To me, like when I do a castor oil pack, the only thing that I feel is like a little bit of a gurgle. The only time I ever feel a difference from castor oil packs if I do them every single day consistently. If I do them like every single day for 2 weeks like in a row, then I do see like huge difference in my gut health and things like that. So if I'm like having some gut issues, or you know, I'm going through a really stressful time or trying to recover, like right now, I sometimes like set aside 2 weeks where I'm going to do a castor oil pack every single day. And then I will see like, okay, I actually see progress from it. But the only thing that I ever get is like a little gurgle of my gallbladder. My gallbladder just kind of goes like gurgle, and then that's it, done. I don't see any difference in like my bowel movements, nothing. It just, I only feel one little gurgle. So it's not weird if you don't see anything from castor oil packs. I definitely look forward to my raw carrot every day now. It just makes me feel better. I totally agree. Like if I miss it and it's like 10 p.m., sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna go eat a carrot at 10 p.m. because I do not want to feel like crap tomorrow. And it's not like I feel like crap, but it's just like you feel it. Like, I don't know, it's just so crazy how a raw carrot could make such a difference. Do you recommend any alternatives to hair removal products like Nair for PCOS? I don't really, honestly, I don't know any, like, anything about, like, hair removal, like, Nair products that are natural. Nair, to me, like, burns my skin, and I haven't used it in forever because I know it's, like, so toxic, but I used, like, Nair, like, 2 times in my life, and at both times I got, like, a severe chemical burn, so I'm like, that showed me that it was, like, so scary chemical-wise. But I should look into it. I've done like sugaring before. I've done my own waxing before. I've gone to waxing centers. Like I've done it all. But honestly, like for my legs, I just always go back to shaving. I think it is more convenient to get my bikini line waxed or I really want to do laser hair removal, but I just haven't gotten around to it because I know it is a commitment. Like you have to go every like 4 to 6 weeks, and like it's like you have to keep going and going and going. But no, I haven't looked into like hair removal creams or anything, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. There's some crazy stuff coming out these days. Thank you. That's interesting to hear. My doctor has basically told me that cysts on my ovaries are a must to have PCOS. No, check out the Period Repair Manual by Lara Bryden. You don't need to have cysts. You either have to have polycystic ovaries show up or anovulatory cycles. You don't need to have both always. Hi, is there any particular liquid progesterone you recommend? I've been using, I usually use the one that my doctor prescribes, but I thought like I would change it up this cycle, and I've been using Ona's progesterone oil and vitamin E, and that one works really, really well. That is a great progesterone oil. Can health supplements from a place such as Holland and Barrett be safe to consume? I'm going for evening primrose oil capsules and vitamin B6 to help with my hormonal imbalance. I've never heard of Holland and Barrett, but I don't see a problem as long as you're like making sure the ingredients are, you know, pretty pure, and I don't see a problem with as long as you're making sure that your products are high quality. Also, what do you think of multivitamin tablets? Are there even benefits to this stuff? I personally don't like multivitamins. I think it's so much better to just like make your own little like multivitamin out of herbs. And you'll get a lot more benefit from it. I just think multivitamins end up like mostly just going into your pee, and they're in like forms that you really a lot of times don't need. Like you can't control the individual quality of the individual nutrients. So in my opinion, I don't really like multivitamins, but that's just my opinion. Laser hair removal, totally worth it. Okay, that is good to know. It's something that I've like always wanted to do, but it is like a little bit of a money investment, and I'm not someone that like, I don't like spend a lot of money on all my things. So it's like when I want to spend money on something, I'm like, I will spend money on something that's going to be worth it. So it's good to hear that people like laser hair removal, because it's something that I'm kind of like a little afraid of, like in a sense, but I'm sure it is so nice to have like the hair gone and never have to worry about it again. It's definitely something for like, I used to get Brazilian waxes and I was like, I cannot do the pain anymore. Like, I'm so sorry, but I just like cannot do the pain. Every time I like just dread it. So I would love to do something more permanent. Is it common for the thyroid to swell under stress? Also, my naturopath recommended retinol, not converting beta carotene, but you mentioned can be toxic. I'm really wondering about vitamin A in my hormones. I personally, from a lot of my research, have seen that like retinol tends to be pretty toxic, but you can get like natural natural derived vitamin E from halibut liver oil. There's a lot of vitamin A's that are, did I say vitamin E? Sorry, vitamin A's that are derived from halibut liver oil, which is a lot safer just because it is a little bit more natural. But I know that you said that you can't convert beta carotene into vitamin A. So, you know, it's like one of those things where if you need vitamin A for your hormones, then you kind of have to maybe try to get it from things like liver, or if you can't eat dairy, then something else. And maybe something, if she recommended a vitamin A would be helpful to you, then maybe look into a natural derived one. Hey Jess, any recommendations for fungal acne, product-wise or food? Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, and I should say, hey Eva. It really kind of depends on like what the fungus is, honestly. There's some people that have like candida and some people that have a different type of fungus, but in general, like oregano oil is helpful. Garlic, I really like a supplement called Kyolic, Kyolic. Sorry, I had to like picture it in my mind. Undesalinic acid by Thorne is really helpful, like antifungal product wise. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, caprylic acid, like pure C10 MCT oil is helpful. And then like food wise, garlic is helpful, cilantro, any type of fresh herbs are going to be helpful. Grapefruit seed extract is another supplement that is helpful for fungus. But yeah, it really depends on if the fungal acne is being driven by fungus itself or the things that are being detoxified out of your body that are feeding fungus. Like if there's estrogen feeding fungus or iron feeding fungus, then it's not really the fungus, but the fact that you're detoxifying things that feed fungus. And in that case, it would be more about like getting those things out and moving, and then the fungus will stop being fed so much. So just kind of a 2 cents, but yeah, like grapefruit seed, garlic, oregano oil, undesalinic acid, caprylic acid, berberine. Trying to think of what else. Pau de arco, black walnut, cloves. Those are all like really good antifungals. And just eating like straight garlic cloves, I mean, that's powerful too. Okay. Yes, laser hair removal is something that has been amazing for me. The best thing I've spent my money on for sure. I didn't go to get it done, but actually purchased my own laser machine at home. Oh, that's good to know. My mom actually has one, and she was like doing her armpits and her like bikini line, and she was like, you should really borrow it. Like, I'll let you borrow it. And I like didn't really think, like, I was like, okay, whatever, mom. Like, but I need to like hit her up on that because if I could do it myself, that's even better. Where do you do your research, like PubMed and such? Yeah, a lot of times on PubMed, I have like a few biologists and like PhDs and things that I follow. I kind of keep up on like their work and what they're researching. I like Chris Master John is pretty good, like he's a good like layman's terms, because I know there's a lot of people out there that like want to know the current research but don't want to sit like spending hours and hours to like dive into studies, which is what I do. I spend about 10 to 15 hours a week on research, just going down research rabbit holes. So I use PubMed. I use like all study portals. So, the Journal of Clinical Nutrition, it just kind of depends on where I find studies. But yeah, I do PubMed studies pretty regularly. But the thing about like research studies, and we have to be honest, you guys, there's evidence-based science and then there's arrogance-based science. And just because it's science doesn't mean it's not funded by a company that wants the study to turn out a certain way. It doesn't always mean that that thing is correct. If you search PubMed, you probably know that you can find a study to support anything you want to support, right? Like it's not like, it's like, oh, this is like clearly black and white. It's like, if you want to support that this compound is good for you, there's like 18 studies that say this compound's good for you, bad for you, gonna kill you, give you cancer, this is gonna cure cancer, you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to be really careful, because when people say like, oh, this is science-based or research-based, it's like, well, it's easy to find research to support what you're trying to say, but is it like really true biologically on a cellular level? And is that research really, really based upon proper biology, or has there been assumptions made? Because keep in mind that science is done by people, and people are flawed. And unfortunately, some people are greedy, some people have a lot of financial benefit to come from certain science being pushed, and unfortunately science is an industry. We like to think so often that science is, the Bible, and it's like, no, science is done by humans who are super flawed. And unfortunately, we don't live in a world where like everything is unicorns and roses, and so there are people that don't have our best interests in mind. And so we do have to be really careful to just like believe it because it's science. And I am that way. Like, I look into the science, but I also am just coming from an understanding of the human body in general. Like, I see how we have been created, and I see how, our cells function on a cellular level. And it's like, I come with an amount of respect and an idea that the body has wisdom, and how the body functions is for a reason. It's not that we're trying to fight against the body or shift or change the body. It's like we got to work with the body, and the body has really been designed to work with the environment around it to really thrive and become optimized. That's like a long way of saying, like, yeah, I'll sometimes search PubMed, but sometimes I think it's bullshit. There's some stuff that's just like pure bullshit. I know vitamin D was discussed yesterday and benefits of sunlight. What are your thoughts on vitamin D capsules from a health store? Well, sometimes supplementing vitamin D can actually make your issues so much worse. Even if you technically have like low vitamin D on a test, you have to get the right vitamin D tested. And there's a lot of people that are doing damage to their health with vitamin D supplementation that they don't actually know that they're doing damage with. So I think sunlight is always going to be the best, because synthesizing your own vitamin D is the better option. And actually making your own vitamin D has therapeutic benefits in itself. So if you can get some type of sunlight or get some type of light, and light in general also has therapeutic benefits. It's not just the vitamin D, it's also that light. Our body really responds to light very well. Our brain responds to light in a really interesting way. So it is best if we can get some light exposure and get our vitamin D from the sun, but that isn't always possible. So I think sometimes if you have low vitamin D, it can sometimes be, I guess, appropriate to supplement. Fungal acne is a lot of times is melasezia. Yeah, it can be, but sometimes there are people that do like everything possible for it, and it still doesn't go away, which in that case, it has something to do with something else. But yes, that is true. Holland and Barrett is just a health supplement store we have here in UK. They sell every supplement you can think of, as well as the highest quality of honey. But then I've heard that supermarkets such as Asda and Tesco have their own branded supplements, which are exactly the same but cheaper. So I will have to check up on the ingredients for myself. Yeah, exactly. Like, you just kind of want to just kind of like, you know, look at their ingredient labels. You can usually probably find them on the internet, and you can kind of just do your own research. And I think it's important to get into the habit, you guys, of just being a researcher in general. We have this like amazing thing available to us that we can just like yank out our phones and Google search something really quickly. And that is really like a very big opportunity for us. And I know like we live in this like fast-paced, lazy culture, but just taking 20 minutes can save us like a lifetime of hurt, right? If we just like do some research on supplements. But I do like a website called toxinless.com, TOXINLESS.com, and he talks about, he kind of rates supplements, gives his favorites based on minimal ingredients, and he gives both UK recommendations and US recommendations, so I would check that out. Hello. Hi, Holly. Yeah, hey Jess, how much milligrams of progesterone do you take? It just kind of depends on how I feel. So for example, this cycle has been a little rough because I've just been a little bit more stressed. Like I've kind of said in the past, like since Fully Nourished has come out, I've just been like relaxing and like trying to recover, and it's been a little rough, I'll be honest. Like my health I let my health kind of go down the toilet a little bit when I was like trying to get Fully Nourished out. So I'm recovering and I'm human, and so like this cycle in general, I've needed a little bit more progesterone. So when I take my oral capsules that are prescribed to me by my doctor, sometimes I have to take up to 200 milligrams, but keep in mind that oral compounded progesterone doesn't always get fully absorbed and has to go through the liver. So when I switched to my like oral drops, my tincture, I've had to take a lot less. I've been taking 75 milligrams. If I feel a little anxious during the day, during my luteal phase, I'll take a little more. So if I'm feeling anxious or I'm not sleeping as well, or I'm feeling like I don't get anxiety, but I get like a little bit of like a fear. Like I start like worrying about everything. Like, oh God, like this is gonna happen and like this is gonna happen. I'm like, oh, low progesterone. That's a low progesterone, Jessica. So I've been taking about like 50 to 75 milligrams. What should I do to support my body on day 1 and 2 of my cycle when I'm losing around 45 milliliters of blood each day? I would look into your progesterone levels and your estrogen levels, because that's a lot of blood to lose. And I would make sure you mention that to your doctor, because that's quite a heavy flow. Usually a normal amount is around like 50 milliliters for a whole period, and anything over 75 is considered a heavy bleed, and a lot of doctors doctors will consider that a heavy bleed. But usually heavy bleeds are driven by estrogen and cortisol, high levels of stress. And so it's so important to make sure your progesterone levels are good. And I would check out my highlight stories on the cycle, on fertility awareness method, on why you have heavy periods, lowering estrogen, that type of thing. What about milk that has vitamin D3 added to it? That can absolutely provide vitamin D, but sometimes the synthetic vitamin D that they use can be a little irritating to the gut, so it's just kind of relative on the person. Okay, guys, I have 1 minute, and then I'm going to end the live. Do you agree with the notion that once you're on thyroxine, you're on it forever because the thyroid gets lazy? Also, can you switch from thyroxine to desiccated thyroid or take it as well? I don't believe that. The thyroid can kick in as long as it has the nutrients that it needs and the support that it needs. So if the endocrine glands aren't working, there's a reason why they're not working, and you have to talk to your doctor about switching from thyroxine to desiccated thyroid, but usually it's not a problem. Are you familiar with the Genova GI test? What do you think of it? I prefer the GI map, but I think it's a good test for sure. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to end this live so that I can hopefully save it and put it onto YouTube, but I thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will go live on at 9 a.m. on Friday morning as well. See you soon.